Hello and welcome to the AUWC Podcast, episode 10. Firstly, congratulations to everyone who competed at the Scottish Powerlifting University Championships last weekend to bring the trophy home for a third year running. We'd like to thank the Aberdeen Student Radio for allowing us to record this episode in their studio to help improve the quality of the podcast. Hamish unfortunately couldn't make it today due to his being in Inverness. However, I have the pleasure of chatting to the very secretive David Cuthill. We also have Marcus Media, newly appointed, sitting on the volume controls, so if there's anything wrong with the production we can blame him. We are aiming to give an analytical breakdown of the University Championships and discuss what the club needs to be doing to stay at the top of the Scottish powerlifting university scene.
AUWC Podcast. Again? AUWC Podcast.
Right, I think we've got a few things to talk about today, so we'll quickly fire into the AUWC news. The third kit order, or the second official kit order, the clothing is available to pick up just before training sessions. If you're wanting it, I'd give Connor a message. He can bring the box down to training and you can get it about 20 minutes before. You have to sign out the kit this time to make sure it wasn't the disaster that it was last time. There's not much left, so if you've not got it, come and get it when you can. The video from the University Championship is now up on YouTube, thanks to Marcus. He did the video of that. We had 18 people lifting and some extra entertaining footage being added in there as well. It's a really nice video. If you've got any opinions or any suggestions to make to Marcus, I'm sure he'd be happy if you could contact him and just give your reviews, your ideas. I'd also like to thank Amy for sitting through the whole weekend and recording everyone's lift. It's not helpful only for the video, but for people that actually want to improve, they can look back on their performance, assess their weaknesses and apply that to their next training. Music has returned to Kings because the downstairs music people aren't rehearsing over the holidays or whatever, I guess. We now have our own speakers back, so there's no excuses not to come to training anymore. Music's back, atmosphere's back. Get yourself along. The exam time is very anabolic. The responsibilities are going to begin to be transferred to the new committee who have been voted in at the last AGM. I had a bit of a chat about Nina and Hamish about that in the last episode. I think that's all for the news. David?
No, I don't think you've missed anything out there.
So it's just coming into summer holidays, or Easter holidays even, exam leave and then the summer holidays, so there's nothing big going on in the club, competition-wise. We've got the end-of-year meal.
And the strongman comp as well. It's
and the
strongman the biggest, best comp of the year.
Right, is that definitely coming up?
I think James is keen to get it going again, but he's got exams as well, obviously, so I don't think it's quite at the forefront of his mind, but I'm sure he'll be speaking to Christian again, because that was a very good day last year.
Maybe that's something the new committee can look to get involved in as well and start to organise. So that was quite successful last year.
Yeah.
Who won last year? The strongman guys.
Yeah. I mean, from our club, I think Adam did quite well. I was absolutely fucked last year, so I wasn't really able to compete. I can't remember, but it'll be interesting to see who does well this year. I think
because Pete wasn't there last year.
No, I think Pete probably would have had a good chance. If Pete competes this year, he might have a good chance of winning it because he's got that Mong strength. He's good at that sort of stuff.
Yeah, retard strength.
Sorry, we should be keeping it PC.
Yeah, well, we'll be able to edit that out at the end, hopefully, and take out all the swearing, because Hamish has got a dirty mouth, so I'm used to it. So for those that don't know what we're talking about, last year there was a informal strongman competition organised by the committee between us and Huntley Strength Gym.
Yeah, Huntley Strength or Huntley Fitness or something. Huntley Strength and Fitness, I think it is. Yeah.
And they have a couple of guys training strongman, brought some kit down, showed us how to do it, and we had a bit of a laugh and tried some new lifts that we usually don't get to do down here. And some of you might remember them from when they competed at our intra-club competition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they put up some big numbers as well.
It's a big pressing.
Yeah. So, I think that's all for the small chat. If we get stuck right in, obviously the big news, as we've mentioned it a couple of times already, the University Powerlifting Championships, which I'm delighted to say the AUWC won for the third year in a row and are undefeated at that certain championship. Loads of great performances for everyone. We had 18 people lifting. I don't think anyone really had too much of a bad day. There's always going to be things you wish you'd done or could have done at a competition, but I think most people came out with some sort of personal record, personal best, and we won, which is
the main thing.
What we wanted
all that
to
matters, winning. I mean, we won for the third. No one else has ever won the Unis Championship, I just say, which is nice, and pushed a bit harder by RGU this year, but I think that Christoph is leaving for them next year, and a few other of those guys are leaving as well, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes next year.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of strong guys teams coming through in Scotland, but they just don't seem to have a ladies team that can match ours right now, which definitely gives us an advantage. Yeah,
I mean, we've obviously got the wonderful Molly Gray, who's been very strong for about 4 years now, and always pulls it out of the bag, and then Nina and Eve are always posting impressive totals as well, and Molly Tweedle too, so I think we're definitely got the best girls team.
Still got a few girls that aren't in their last year as well coming up, and we've also got a lot of younger girls coming up as well.
Who's leaving this year? Molly.
Yeah, so we'll still have Nina next year. I believe we'll still have Eve, and I think Jen Newton's still about. Not really sure what she does though, because I don't really get to speak to her at training or anything like that. And then there's a couple of the younger girls that have come up, like Nina and Daniela, who seem keen and have trained hard, and they should be able to make some big improvements.
I've got a lot to live up to with Molly, and of course we had Alice last year as well, who's now gone as well. Yeah. So it was probably our best. I think that last year they absolutely smashed everything. Still won this year, but I think it'll be a while before you find two that were as dominant as Molly and Alice were last year. Yeah.
It takes a bit of time. It's just if not many people join the club one year, then you've got that kind of gap in the generation, because it's not the kind of sport where you can come from school and think, oh, I'll try that. You don't really get good in the year.
No.
It takes a good couple of years, good few years, even if you've had a sporting or strength background, to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that people do stick to it and know that it does take a while. So overall, for the university championships, do you think it was a well-run competition?
I thought it was pretty. They're getting pretty slick now at SPF. I think it was pretty. There was no hiccups or anything. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago there was people. I think Omar Khan started pulling a deadlift before he was told that it was the wrong weight, and didn't get to retake it, and there was all sorts going on. But no, there's much less of that these days, and they're doing so many comps these days. They're getting quite slick at it. I mean, I think they've done 4 already this year. They've done.
It was the
Easterns, Northerns, Westerns, Unis, and there might have been like another one in there somewhere. But yeah, so they're getting quite slick at it, and much less of the misloads and such like these days.
Yeah, I guess it comes with the whole organisation getting more experienced as a whole, and the members of it. So we do have competent spotters, competent loaders, and
it was good to see Robert Love there spotting as one of the golden boys of the federation. It's good to see them mucking in as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I mentioned it at the start, but we did have Daniela and Annette, who weren't competing at the weekend, and they came down to help spot and load on the guys' day, which is not an easy task, especially if you've never been to a competition before. So just a nice wee shout out to them that did quite well. What about the other universities? Do you think they're kind of, I don't want to say catching up to us, because I think we've just been lucky with the kind of people that are there, but they're definitely posting up more lifters to make a kind of bigger team and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think RGU even had more lifters than us this year. So they've come on a lot in the last year. I mean, last year they didn't even have a team. I don't think I think they maybe had 1 or 2 lifters.
Mm-hmm.
So they're certainly going well. And of course, they've got Kieran Leith as well, who's just come out of nowhere and decided he wants to squat 700 pounds. So he's a big one to watch out for. I mean, even with a rubbish comp by his standards, he only got his opener in his squat, and he missed his third deadlift. He still came away with a 419 Wilks.
Yeah.
And as a super heavyweight, it's not like he's got to worry about staying in his weight class either. He can just keep on eating and gaining and eating and gaining. And
I mean, he's not even that far above 120, is he? Like, you see some of the guys in the
super
heavyweights.
He was 136, so
you see somebody super heavyweight sitting at 150.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and if you go all the way up to the likes of Ray Williams, you're closer to 200 than you are to 150, which is just bonkers. But I don't know if he's going to go quite that far, but he said to me that he's going to keep eating and gaining, and hopefully come back.
Well, he's not the tallest, is he?
No, I think he's shorter than me actually, but he's just so wide.
Yeah, he's so much mass.
Yeah.
How did you think that your performance went?
It wasn't quite what I was aiming for, but I had some issues, crop up during my peak. I had my old glute injury from last year, kicked in a few times, and was really just a bit of an irritation, especially when I was deadlifting. So about 6 weeks out, I was absolutely flying on deadlift, and I thought I was on for a big PB. And then just one day, I just overdid it a bit and probably went straight from the RP8 that I kind of aimed for into the 910s, and that seemed to just ruin everything from that point on. I just couldn't deadlift to save my life, so that was a bit disappointing. I was hoping for more than that.
As competition personal best go, though, you still improved your total competition.
Oh yeah,
total?
yeah. Well, I couldn't not after having not competed for
a year and a half.
Yeah.
Do you think that affected you as well?
To an extent, I think I never liked squatting without the mirror, and it's always a bit harder to judge depth. And I kind of had to, for my third attempt, I kind of had to just go to what I thought was depth and no more, and then come back up, because I didn't think if I'd sunk it, it would have come back up. So I did that, and unfortunately I got called for it. I mean, I think this year they've been a lot harsher on depth than they have been. I think in SPF 2016 or 2015 I might have got away with that, but I mean, you saw at the Easterns they've been properly stringent on the old depth calls.
Yeah, I think it depends who's on the panel, because at the end of the day it is a bit subjective.
Yeah, I mean, without going into slating certain individual judges on SPF.
I didn't mention any names, did I?
No, we'll do that after.
Well, at least we know it's pause bench and not touch and go.
Yeah.
That was confirmed at the weekend for us on the ladies'
Oh yes, yeah, that was very paused benches.
Yeah. What else have we got? It was interesting you mentioned the fact about the mirror at King's and not having it, because I think personally that's something that's affected me quite a bit as well. Because I either can cut it quite well looking in the mirror, or I can't really go by feel, because I don't really think about my depth. I just look.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I tend to watch myself and then try and cut it just where I think is right on. And I find it difficult kind of mentally. Like, I worry about it, but I don't think it ever really affects me that much. So I mean, going off my training numbers and how the squats felt in training, and then what happened on the day, if you factor in the slight weight cut I did, I don't think I was too far off. I mean, that 222 that I squatted I would have counted that in ASV as or in Kings as a PB. And that was about in line with the sort of stuff I'd been doing in ASV, maybe a little bit lower, but it's just, I mean, it feels bad, but I think it's worse when you've got a mirror and you've not to look at it consciously, because then when you try and squat without looking at it, when you've got a mirror, it's just distracting. Yeah. When you've not got the mirror, you're kind of forced to not do it, and you just kind of have to. I just usually pick someone's forehead out in the crowd and just stare at them. Yeah.
Stare right into the eyes of the head judge.
I would do, but they're always like right down.
David Hammond's got quite a cold stare, actually. He would say.
Yeah, David Hammond's right in his eyes. He's a top lad.
Yeah, so I mean, it's probably a problem that's tried to be tackled before in Kings, the mirrors, but it's. I mean, I can only think about hanging a flag or something over the mirror.
I mean, overall, I think the mirror is worth it for training most of the time, because it's a good form tool as well, because you get to watch yourself squatting and see how you're doing, and whether you're hitting depth or whether your knees are caving in. It's just something you have to account for in competition, I suppose.
So, looking back on the day, or on I guess the 6 weeks running up to it, you mentioned you might not have tried one of those RPE 9 deadlifts, or just pulled it back.
It was just one day when I was meant to do 5 sets of 3, and I did 5 sets of 4 because it was feeling good, and then it wasn't a wise training decision. I'd managed to hold myself back from doing that sort of stuff all training cycle, because that's usually on deadlift my downfall, is pushing it too hard and not being able to recover from it. So I'd managed to hold myself back, and I just did it one day, and from that point on I was just wrecked. I think it impacted on my momentum, because I wasn't able to do the next session, and then I kind of got stuck in a point where I was too early to deload, but I couldn't keep pushing it. Yeah. So that was the issue there. So with everyone else's performance in mind, I guess, is there anything that stands out from someone that you think you saw, oh, that's really good what they're doing, or maybe a common mistake with other people from the day, maybe not within our own university, or other entrants as well, something that you see that happens a lot at comps that people could focus on maybe next time, that would help quite a lot? I mean, apart from the kind of obvious ones, which are depth and not pausing benches, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think people have moved beyond the crazy openers picking like 5 kilos under your 1 rep max for an opener. I think that's kind of been moved on from.
I think we're definitely good for that. Everyone just opens is really light.
Yeah.
I think it's just having that person there to say, I don't care if your squat's feeling good. This is what you decided your opener was.
I mean, it's very difficult to actually open too low, because if you're, say, the way I tend to do it is I work back from what I want, and then treat the first and second attempts as kind of warm ups to that. And then if you were going to come in and try and squat 200, what would be the last attempt you would do? Probably 185.
Yeah, 185, 190.
Yeah, 190 at a push. So I mean, if you look at that, if you come in and want to squat 200, you could even open as light as 160 and still be all right to do that, because you could go 160, 185, 200. Mm-hmm. So I mean, some people would come in wanting to squat 200 and open it at 190 or 195, and it's just it's not worth it for me.
It's better to give yourself that better chance to hit it. Because some people might think, if I open 190, then I'll get 2 shots at it.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've had to squat 90 might have taken it out of you to squat the 200.
Yeah, I don't think it's like weightlifting where you can miss a weight and then come back and then nail it.
Yeah. Unless something disastrous happens where you lose your balance or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, even still, I think mentally that would just do you in. So I think you've got kind of one shot and you got to get it right. Yeah. So that's how I always look at it. Is just choose 2 attempts that are kind of. I mean, first attempt should always be last warm up in my eyes, and then second attempt could be maybe a small PB, and then third attempt is what you really want for that day.
Mm-hmm. It's quite an easy mistake to make as well, though, and one of those ones that sometimes you just have to probably make it to learn from it. Like I think it was the Jake Brown or something like that's his name. That trains at the Raw Anatomy, and he bombed out in his squat at Easterns. I think it was something like 190, and then his opener for unis when he went a bit again was 160. Yeah, because he'd obviously learned and been like, wow, that 190 was his third attempt kind of weight. I think he got maybe done for depth that day as well.
Yeah, that was the worst day for sure. I don't think they've been quite as bad as that, but that day was like blatantly in squats in my eyes. Were getting red lighted, but yeah, I mean, I remember Sean knows him because Sean trains at that gym.
Oh,
and he'd been saying to him, look, open lighter apparently, but didn't heed his advice.
Well, that boy did have a good performance at uni, so I guess it played off well in the end. Mm-hmm. Pete had a really good performance.
Yeah, Pete did well, especially after. I think he was worrying about his glute, but I was always telling him I thought he'd be fine.
Just needed to take a break.
Just needed to rest a bit, and he would be all right. And his bench is certainly. I think he'll agree with me. Not where it needs to be for a 105, but getting very close to it.
Yeah, he's put a lot on his bench recently.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair, last year he was getting stronger last year as well, because I think it's a while now since he first benched 140, but last year he had a big shoulder injury from playing football, and he couldn't bench for 6 weeks, and then he just kind of got stuck with the 130 again. But he did the 140 or 145 at the intra-uni in November.
Yeah,
I think it was
145,
and then his 155 was probably even easier than that. So he's finally getting there. Out of the poverty bench club.
Guess it doesn't help when he goes on holiday for 3 months to Latvia or whatever it is.
He's such an interesting individual that it doesn't seem to matter for Pete. Like, you can not train his deadlift for God knows how long and it'll still be the same.
Yeah.
Which is very irritating. But,
well, he's quite an active person, I guess. Maybe that helps if you're hill walking all the time instead of opposed to 2 weeks a holiday to Spain or something where you're just sitting on the beach.
Yeah, probably. Very annoying.
What about what do you think of James's performance?
James did well. I mean, James had quite a. Well, actually, he didn't have that bad of a water cup. He had a little cut to do, and he was unlucky because he missed all his thirds, and hence it looked like he hadn't made any progress. But he definitely has. I mean, his 200 went up nice and easy, and that 210 he just got stuck in his usual sticking point and just couldn't quite get his glutes through to lock it out. And his bench is getting there as well. For a 93, it's not where it needs to be, but he's getting there. I think he was 110 and then he missed 115 in his third.
Same with Pete, he's just slowly climbing.
Yeah, I mean, if I was saying to James, if you look at what Pete was benching 2 years ago, I remember at my first comp in Dumfries, Pete squatted 215, I think, and he got called in depth for that. But his squat wasn't wildly different to what it was today, and his deadlift wasn't wildly different. I think his deadlift was 255 that day. Mm-hmm. But he only benched 115, and it wasn't like an easy 115 either. And now, 2 years later, it's 40 kilos bigger than that. So it does. I think bench, I always call it the old man's lift. You've got to kind of just spend a good amount of time under the bar, hammering away at it with volume, and it will move eventually.
I think Nina and Eve, you mentioned them earlier, had a really good standout performances. Both of them breaking 350 welts.
Yeah.
Both of them pulling 167.5.
Was it 167.5 for Eve?
Eve, I think
she was 165, wasn't she?
I don't know. Well,
yeah,
one of the two, she pulled 170 the other day, I think, in the gym.
Yeah.
So that was really good.
Eve's always had a sickening deadlift. I don't think I've ever seen anyone with a shorter torso than Eve. It's like this long. It's but they both did. They both did well.
I think they both hit solid benches as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for them the big thing was not trying to force their way into the 63 class anymore, and just accepting that it's not. I mean, I think when they both came to the club, they were both over 63 in weight, and to try and cut down and build muscle and stay there all at the same time is too difficult to do for an extended period of time. And if you look at the people who are really good in 63, they tend to be, of course, shorter. So I think they've both benefited from just moving up a weight class.
Is there anyone, particularly freshers or new to the club, that you think with the right attitude and like hard training, they've got a lot of potential in a couple of years to kind of keep us going with the standard we're known for?
I mean, Marcus, who's sitting here silently, has done well this year. I think he's squatted over 200 now. Is that not right, Marcus? 210. Yeah. So that's for a fresher. I mean, 105, but for a fresher, that's still pretty good going. And if you keep going at that,
it's double body weight.
Yeah.
And you're not at the top of the 105s as well, Marcus. You're kind of sitting high 90s or something like that. So a lot of room to do. So I
mean, for a fresher, that's pretty good going. I would think Marcus can kick on and keep that going, and maybe be squatting 230, 240 next year if he keeps at it. I'm sure that he'd be happy with that. And then Eric, I look at Eric and he's got the muscle mass. He just needs to
wake up.
He just needs to. I think he just needs to focus on practicing the movements, because a lot of it in powerlifting, as you know, is kind of neural adaptations.
Yeah.
And you can have big muscles like he's got, but you need to train them into the right motor patterns, and I think that's probably all that Eric really needs to do for a while. I mean, saying that, he's already got a 150 touch and go bench, so his bench isn't poor by any means, and I think he squatted 200 at the Easterns, so yeah, he's another one with good potential.
Yeah, I think he got the thing with the squat was, remember, I think the spotters took it too early on his third,
yeah,
and it looked like he was still moving, so that was a shame. And then obviously just trying it again, don't know if he had it in him.
Did he get it? I can't remember.
I don't think he got it on the second time.
It's always
I'm not
unfortunate
sure.
when you got to do a fourth, because you're always pretty spent by that time.
Yeah. There was Chris McGregor did quite well as well. It was a shame that he
in
turned
between
up
chatting shit, he lifted some decent weights in between slating everyone.
Yeah, it was a shame that he went missing for 3 months after New Year, and then popped up 6 weeks before uni. He's like, "Hey guys, I'm back." And he was like, "Oh well." And then 2 weeks out for the comp, it's like, "Chris, what's your plan? What are you doing today?"
That. Yeah, it's I don't know.
It's like, you're 2 weeks out from 2 weeks out from a comp, mate. You should have some sort of plan.
And you're like, "We'll start a linear progression." I was like, "There's no time for anything, any sort of progression." 1 week and then he's got to be resting up.
He just needed to know what he was doing.
But he should concentrate on getting fully 74.
Yeah.
Because he was 66.7 or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
And he's already got quite a good bench. What did he bench? 110, 115?
I think he missed 115, got 110.
Yeah, for what essentially was a 66 lifter. I mean, if he hadn't had dinner last night, he would have been 66. That's pretty good going. And his squat and his deadlift will get there, because he's a bro, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he hasn't trained them before, so he just needs to...
Arms bigger than his legs.
Yeah. He just needs to practice them. I mean, if he goes up to full 74, he should be good, because we've not actually got any really 74s anymore. No, I remember a couple of years ago there was an absolute surplus of 74s, because there was Stuart Burnett. I mean, if you can imagine an even skinnier Stuart Burnett.
Yeah, I've seen the old videos.
There was Shez, rest in peace.
Conor Mackey used to be a 74.
Yeah. There was also Kai Ben Shabat, who was a guest member. He was really good. He was squatting 180 at 17 and 72 kilos. He was a and that back in those days was one of the bigger squats in the club as well, because the squats used to be really crap. It's funny now, we've kind of reversed. We've kind of got a lot of really good squatters, but the deadlifts aren't quite where they used to be.
Yeah.
I think now I've actually got the second biggest deadlift out of everyone in the club, regardless of weight class. Which, I mean, even last year there was I think 4 or 5 people kind of hovering around the 250 mark.
Yeah.
So it's weird how things have, and the benches as well have come on a lot. I remember, I think when I joined, the big bencher was Seb, and then there was Dav as well, and who else was good? Yeah, Scott Rutherford, but they were only just 140 or slightly above, and now there's a lot of people benching 140, and then you've got Pete, for example, at 155. So yeah, it's squats and benches have definitely come on. We just need to keep the deadlifts up where they were as a club.
What about the ladies up and coming?
Yeah, I mean, who we've got Daniela and Anina. Who else we've got? I mean,
Jill,
yeah.
Leah.
Well, I mean, if Jill's got the same sort of
deadlift
she's got the
potential.
Tommy genetics, and she should be lifting some sickening numbers. Yeah, yeah. The girls, I think, you just need to, again, like the boys, just spend some time under the bar and practice the lifts, and they will get better. It's lucky because it's not lucky, but the girl standard isn't quite as high as the men's. So if you really want to train really, really hard, you can become quite high up in
quite competitive
quite quickly. I mean, if you take the example of the president of RGU, who's gone from.
Do you know her?
Yeah, I've spoken to her a few times. She's, I think, didn't train all last summer. Did a 6-week cycle for British, and she's had like a 320 Wilks there.
Yeah.
Didn't train between British and Christmas, and then someone with a good head on his shoulders said, "Listen, you need to stop fucking around." So she started training again after January, and then she's while cutting weight, she's managed to get up to a 370 Wilks. So I mean, I think, and she's like second or third now in Scottish powerlifting. So it's not as difficult to get up there when you're a girl as it is as a boy, because I mean, if you look at the guys that are at the top of the boys in Scottish powerlifting, we've got Mark McQueen, Chris Wong.
Mark McQueen, 470 Wilks, Chris Wong, not far behind.
Yeah, I think Mark McQueen's 479, Chris Wong's 477, and then below them you've got the likes of, God, what's his name? Callum Crozier.
Oh yeah, an absolute mutant.
He's just one of the, he's just ridiculously strong. Then there's always Robert Love to be wary of, and that's just
been in the game for years.
That's just the people that have competed so far this year. I'm sure there'll be more people. I mean, Mark Keys as well is another strong guy who's not even competed this year. I'm sure he'll be well over an 800 total by now. So it's the depth there is a bit more in the men's than it is in the women's.
These guys are only just going to get stronger as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're all, with the exception of Robert Love, I think they're all young-ish.
There was a guy. There was a guy I saw at Eastons as well. The boy that won the 93s had like a 430 Wilks.
Oh yeah, that Callum Anand. Yeah, he was a strong guy.
He looked like quite a controlled and smooth lifter as well.
I looked at him and he didn't look at all strong. Like if I'd had to pick someone out of the 93s to win, it wouldn't have been him. But he had a really good bench. I think he benched 160 odd, which was very good at 93.
Yeah, so that's one for the ladies. If you want to get up there and you want to be competitive, get some smart training, get some long-term plans, and as Dave said, it's not easier, but there's less competition.
One thing as well you should also say is that the women can train harder than the men because they can recover better, so no excuses.
Is that science?
Yeah, it genuinely is. It's because I'm not a biologist, but from my understanding, the women aren't quite as efficient as firing all the synapses in the muscle at once, so they can't quite exert the same amount of force, so they can't quite do the same amount of damage when they're training.
Right.
And there's also various metabolic things going on, which mean that they can recover faster and handle more volume. So
interesting.
Especially for lifts that the women tend to struggle at, like bench, you can be benching 4 or 5 days a week. Easily.
Right, I think that covers most of what we have evaluated of unis. I don't think there's anything other that you want to discuss.
I don't think so, no.
Something that needs to be brought up. Actually, I think he's going to start crying or something like that if I bring up Marcus's squat dump. I don't know who saw that or if anyone saw the video, but it's been a more frequent trend of bailing the bar in competition, and although Marcus's was a bit of a different circumstance, he has been spoken to about it. If anybody outside from the club has been listening,
a stiff telling off by someone, I imagine.
And it's important to know that it was an accident. It's not like he tried to bail it off his back while he was coming up in the squat, like a lot of people dump it over their heads, which not only can hurt yourself, it can potentially could kill a spotter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's never. I don't know if anyone's ever actually been killed, but you can certainly get pretty seriously injured. I remember watching. I think it was the US Open last year, and Zahir dumped like something stupid like 470 kilos, and they used safety straps there because they got the monolift, and a guy got his finger caught between the safety strap and the bar.
Oh, Jesus, with 400 kilo on it.
I was watching a live stream and he's like pulling his arm out, obviously, and screaming. I thought someone was seriously injured, but apparently it was only broken, so...
Yeah. So I thought we'd just cover that there, that Marcus is really sorry for what happened. If anyone from Scottish Powerlifting is listening, and the club has spoken to him, because it's something that we wouldn't be very happy about if it happened to one of our members that was spotting and trying to give back, especially as volunteering is volunteering, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Right, so cannot think anything else from unis. We'll move on to the AUWC in general, I guess. You've been in the club, what, third year or fourth year?
Yeah, I joined in third year, I think, started third year. So that was October 2014 or September 2014, I think.
And the club's been quite a prominent part of your university career, life.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, so what do you think, is the club different from when you joined it?
Yeah, it is different. There's a lot more people, obviously.
Yeah, we've got plus 90 members now. Even last year there was only pushing 70. I'm sure before that there's probably less as well.
Yeah, I think as well there's a lot less kind of YOLO training goes on now, as used to happen. Marcus is sniggering, I'm not quite sure why. I mean, we used to have quite a culture of people just going in and hitting 1 rep maxes and seeing what would happen.
Every session.
I think this is just, it's been a general trend in powerlifting that's been reflected in the club, is more emphasis on kind of technique and sub-maximal training and such like. So I think that's been a big change.
I think that's could become about with the percentage of people that competing for the club as well.
Yeah.
So more people have this kind of date that they want to prepare for, and instead of maxing out in the gym, you have to take your PRs on the platform or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
do you think it's a better change in the club?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's as many people getting big injuries as there used to be. I mean, I think there was at one point there was quite a lot of people that had like serious or relatively serious injuries going on. And I think, if not caused by that style of training, it's probably exacerbated by that. I mean, if you've got a funky hip or whatever, then doing a max squat every week probably doesn't help. Right.
And so, is there? Well, I mean, we spoke about the musics back earlier. Do you think that there's a different kind of atmospheric training now? You've got people kind of doing their own programs, their own training, instead of everyone coming in and perhaps say squatting together, which isn't really feasible because we've only got 2 racks and 90 members.
I mean, yeah, it is different. It's difficult to put into words. I mean, I think there still exists that kind of atmosphere, but it's not everyone always stops to watch now. And because it's bigger, it's not quite as like everyone was really, really, really like knew each other and spent time together outside the club. It's not quite like that now because it is a lot bigger. But it's still good, I think, and it's still. So
I guess maybe a couple of years ago, everyone who was in the club was friends because it would be that 20 same people at training.
Club, and so I mean now you've got more people from different stages of their lifting, and I think you've got more people higher up and more people lower down, whereas at one point everyone was kind of around the same sort of. You had Mike Ferguson, and then there was a lot of people kind of around a sort of similar level that were kind of chasing him, that all used to kind of train together. Whereas you've got it doesn't quite work like that now, partly because there's more people and you can't really manage that, and partly because not everyone trains the same way. I think from my impression everyone used to just, squat on the same day, bench the same day, deadlift on the same day, but now you've got people doing all sorts of different stuff in different days.
I think so it just wouldn't be possible to manage that as well, as you say, with 2 benches and 2 squat racks. Because I remember when James, away back to his president's speech before the start of this year, he mentioned something about performance squads or something. So the people that really wanted to kind of push their training for purposes of winning powerlifting competitions, etc. And that would then allow people to maybe train together and those people, but it would be hard to organise because people have got to change their timetables and be on the same training days.
You don't always want to segregate people like that as well.
Yeah.
If it's for the social aspect, but I do think sometimes that can get in the way of training performance. Sometimes
the social side of it.
Yeah. And just Kings as well. I think as a facility we've outgrown that gym. As a club we've outgrown that gym because of the size and the equipment that we don't have that we need, or that some people need to get stronger. I think, and the time constraints as well. Sometimes as well, like 2 hours isn't always enough to get everything done.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I used to train 6 days a week. I now train 4 days a week. As a result, my sessions are slightly longer than they used to be. And to come in and warm up and do all my stuff that I wanted, especially with the amount of people that tend to be on one squat rack in Kings, it is a slower training pace, and to get everything done isn't always feasible.
Especially if some people are there just lifting more socially rather than competitively, then there's not that drive to get the sets in and push people to load the bar and load the bar.
I mean, I think you need to be training with people not only of a similar mindset but of a similar level. I, as you know, I come to Kings maybe 2 days a week, at least I try to come on a Friday and a Saturday, but on the Monday and the Wednesday I go to ASV because that's where the people that are around my level are training. So I've got Johnny to train with, who's obviously, we're not too far apart on Wilks, but he's much stronger than me ultimately.
Yeah.
So I've got that to kind of chase. I've got Omar to chase because he's got really good Wilks, so there's that kind of atmosphere, and we're both at a similar place in our training, and I think that's good when you've got people to train with that are at a similar level to you.
Yeah. So
I think there is some, like I say, about the facilities as well. There's some things in Kings that are just not, that aren't there that I would like to use. There's not a cable machine. There's not any sort of, you can do barbell rows or kind of chest supported dumbbell rows, but that's the only really kind of rowing you can do. And I think rowing is hugely important for kind of shoulder and back health if you're doing a lot of benching.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the sort of thing that's missing from Kings.
So I mean that leads quite nicely into our next point or question, is that you've mentioned there's not a lot of stuff for rowing, particularly not enough lot of stuff for hamstrings, which you've brought up a number of times. Are these prominent issues that you think a number of lifters in the club could benefit from addressing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think hamstrings are a big one because you can do deadlifts and you can do RDLs, but there's only so many of them you can do in a week before you're just attacking your lower back and not your hamstrings. So I think it's always useful to have something like a glute ham raise and a hamstring curl or a back extension. I mean, we've got some sort of back extension thingy with all but Kings, but I'm not entirely sold on how useful that thing is.
I think, I'm not sure if this is correct, but for the back raise or back extension, well, if you look at the leg and then obviously the quad extends the knee. So if you're on that and your legs are locked out, your hamstrings can't activate because your quad's activating to extend the knee. So you have to do it with bent knees, but you can't on that machine because of the angle of the pads. So maybe that's something we need to look to upgrade.
Yeah, I mean the problem is that there's nowhere to put anything. You've got to start pulling out like squat racks and stuff if you want to really get anything more in there. Because I mean we've got rid of the leg press. The only like non-essential bit of kit that's left there is the dumbbell rack, and even still that's arguably as useful as a hamstring curl. So.
And with the loss of the balcony bit for bags, it's only getting more and more packed. I mean, I think we pulled out a band last night and tried to tie it to a squat rack and lie on the ground and curl that way, but it's not the most effective thing. It's not ideal.
It's not loadable, is it? Either you can't. I mean,
you can go from the blue band to the green band, and it's just it's like 20 kilos of resistance difference.
And I mean, I don't want to shame anyone, but there are people I look at and think, there's a certain weakness there or something that could probably be solved by that. Or, I mean, with things like hamstrings, you can see it in the deadlifts. With things like upper back, you don't really see it in the bench, but you see it in posture. So, because if someone doesn't do the enough upper back work, they kind of just end up with that rounded over posture.
Seb shoulders.
Yeah, I could say that. That's where I see that myself.
So, how do you see a hamstring weakness in the deadlift? Is it rounded back?
Yeah, it tends to just be kind of over-reliance on your back rather than on the hamstrings themselves, and kind of, I think, weak around the knee. And then if you've got glutes and hamstrings are also tied in together, so if you've got weak glutes, you'll see struggles that lock out as well, I think. So I think it just throughout the whole lift as well, like if you train your hamstrings, your deadlift's going to get stronger.
Mm-hmm. Is it something you can see that's evident from squatting as well?
Squatting, it's not as much of an issue because I don't think the hamstrings do as much as people think in the squat.
As the quads or the glutes. Yeah.
The quads are the main driver, but if people are having issues like locking out a squat or stuff like that, then that can be the issue. I mean, for me actually, the biggest time I notice it is when I'm got sore hamstrings. I struggle to actually squat correctly. Like I can't even sit down into the squat properly because I feel like I'm going to topple over forwards. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it definitely is something that would help people if they had something like that to work on.
Awesome. So if you're listening and you maybe hear or you recognise some of these symptoms of hamstring weakness, this could be something to try, or get yourself to ASV and get on the leg curl. I'm not a big advocate of it, ASV though, but I think in this case there's not really any other option I can give you.
Yeah, I mean ASV's got its issues as well. The bench is shocking, the floor is shocking. There's not enough weights, but there doesn't seem to be enough weights anywhere.
I know.
It's better than, I think it's probably better than it used to be for the weights because they got an extra setting, but still sometimes.
And the problem is, again, as you say, you try and get more weights in, and then there's even less space.
Yeah, yeah, it's an issue. I think someone needs to invest in calibrated plates. I mean, someone from the uni and just trust us with them. But yeah. I don't think that's ever going to happen, unfortunately.
I mean, I don't think it's. I think the fact is, it's maybe not us that they trust, but it's that the plates have to be stored in that gym, and anyone else can have access to them.
And they're not cheap.
Yeah. So I mean, and they're not only going to wreck. If they drop them, they're not only going to wreck the plates; they could wreck the platforms as well. Mm-hmm. That's just going to be a bigger expense. I mean, I wonder how old those platforms are.
Well, they got replaced recently. Remember?
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Was it not when Alice was president? They replaced the whole floor and we weren't allowed to use it for a week.
All right.
You don't remember that? I'm sure you were still here when that happened. But yeah, I mean, the issue was that the platforms were so crap in those days that people used to deadlift on the floor and then they ended up destroying the floor. So, yeah, not ideal.
Yeah. I mean, it's never going to be perfect because I think one of the problems is that, I mean, the most anyone's in the club is for about 3 years. And once you get, so your first year is your fresher, second year maybe on the committee you can try and start doing some ideas, third year you put them in place and then you're away.
Yeah.
And somebody else has got to start the process again. But that's just the nature of it being a university club and not some sort of, like, just its own club in itself, like a private club, So, you didn't expect to be here this year? Or you weren't sure if you were going to be here this year?
No, I was undecided, so.
Because you study law.
Yeah.
And you finished your 4-year degree. Yeah. And then what are you doing this year?
Well, me and Pete have been doing a diploma this year.
Right.
Which is, as we've discovered, essentially a scam. But it's needed to. Trust me, it's a scam. Pete will back me up on this. But you've to do it to become eligible to become a qualified solicitor. So we did that this year. So I wasn't sure if I was going to do it until kind of later on, past the AGM. So I didn't go for any committee positions or anything, but
yeah. So had you known, you might have ran for, say, president.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would have gone for president, I'm sure.
So say you could have been president this year, or you could be president next year, hypothetically. Excuse me. What's the kind of things that you'd maybe look to take? Where you'd like to take the club? What you'd like to do?
That's a difficult one. I don't know.
You've got the advantage of being here for quite a few years.
Yeah.
And a few things have been tried.
I would push certain people to, train harder or train smarter because I would think that they've got potential to be good. I would put more of an emphasis on that kind of being good and trying to get as good as you can. I think is what's important. You got to look at. Myself, I looked at where I was when I first started lifting in Scottish powerlifting. I was nowhere. I've kind of gradually got up to where I'm slightly better, but I'm not where I want to be, and that's kind of what drives me on to get better and better, and I would try and kind of bring that mindset into the club and give it a bit more of a competitive mindset. And you look at the beyond the club and at the wider kind of powerlifting scene in Scotland and say, right, he's better than me, I need to train harder to be better than him. So I kind of try and bring that ethos in.
So is it more of a self-improvement thing to beat other people, or is it a self-improvement thing to...
Yeah, it's definitely to beat other people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. It's people like yourself and Pete, and then people that are maybe still stronger than me but a bit closer, like Stuart Barnett and James. It's always looking for the next person to beat, and and
eventually you end up with maybe just one or two, hopefully.
Yeah, but I guess it is difficult when these people aren't as like want to get is better as well. So you like pass them, and then it's like, oh, I don't.
That's when you move on to the next person.
Yeah,
I mean, there's always someone better. I mean, who is it that I'm trying to chase down right now, or who's it? Well, to be honest, I've been looking at the Scottish junior records for a while as my kind of training motivation. I still follow the guy that's got them, and he's never really been one that I've looked to beat. I mean, well,
there's also the fact that Michael Ferguson's been at the top of the AUWC all-time leaderboard for Wilkes, and he's yet to be beaten, and you're not far off now.
No, I mean, had I got any other one of those lifts on the comp, I would have had him.
Right.
Which is irritating because two of them were failed for kind of silly mistakes.
Yeah.
And I've got one. I suppose I've got one or two more chances because of the way as record keeper I've always done it is that if you go to British or Scottish juniors having qualified as a club member, then I'll put that on as a club competition, even if you've left uni.
Aye, right enough, because you've got a competitive membership, and that will last the whole year. So
I mean, I've got British juniors. I think I'm going to do this year. I'm not decided if I'll do Scottish juniors as well. So I've got that to kind of aim for. I mean, so Mike's another one that I've been eyeing for a while, trying to overtake on Wilkes. Who else? I remember after Uni's 2015, 2 years ago, it was Samim was the one that I was my training motivation to try and catch. I think I've just about caught him now, although the boy's been injured, so it's not fair, really.
Well, I guess that's part of the game, though.
Yeah.
If you're training really hard and make more progress, but then that training leads you to get injured.
Yeah.
Instead of just being patient with the slow gains.
Yeah. I mean, having said that, I think there's something to be said for pushing it and seeing how far you can take it, and seeing how far you can go before you get injured. It's difficult because you do have to push yourself and not as far as getting injured. But I think some people would benefit from maybe instead of just benching once or twice a week, seeing if they can handle 3 times a week and seeing if they can handle 4 times a week, and just discovering where that maximal recoverable volume is, so they can still progress, but as fast as possible for them, and also to just see what works for them and what doesn't, and maybe just experiment a bit more. Yeah, I mean, as I said to you earlier, I'm guilty of doing that too often and pushing it too hard too often. I keep on to kind of hold myself back.
I guess the thing to add there is just know when to do it.
Yeah.
For example, right now, we've just finished unis. There's not another comp for ages. It's exam time for most people. Like all you'll be doing is studying, training and eating and sleeping. Get down to training and kind of push yourself, see how hard you can go in these sessions, and then by the summer you'll know exactly what you can handle, or have a better idea at least. Yeah. And you can set up a sort of 12-week training plan, a 16-week training plan, 8-week, whatever, for, as you say, Scottish juniors or British juniors, leading up to the end of the year. And it just outside of powerlifting and training, is having a routine and a schedule can just benefit you in so many other ways. If you've got something you need to be up for, like training, you're going to study better because you know you can just get that 2 hours done and get in the gym, and you're not just going to be sitting about all day.
Absolutely.
So I do like that point about increasing the competitiveness. Then again, it's a university club, and this is where people come to make friends. A lot of people, this is one of the main things about their university life. So it's finding a balance. I can't really remember that. Oh, that came from present. If you were president of the club.
Yeah, that's where we were going with that one.
So I actually wanted, before we move on to the last section that we have planned out, I just wanted to say about, so if people were making a sort of 12-week plan, how should they go about it? What's your kind of philosophy on training, or I know you like a lot of sub-maximal
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm
Leave it for the platform type thing.
big on variations at the start of a training cycle. So I think I did a kind of 3-phase thing for my. I'll use the bench as an example because that went well. I used a kind of 3-phase approach to benching to get it into the last comp. So when I was far out, I can't remember exactly how many weeks. I think up until about I must have been 12 to 16 weeks out for the 6 weeks leading up to 6 or 8 weeks leading up to 12 weeks out. I was only benching once a week, but on the other 3 days of the week I was doing stuff like close grip feet up bench, incline bench, dumbbell bench. So I was only benching once a week, but I was doing 4 presses in total. And then that was my first phase. So that was a lot of variation. It was a lot of volume.
So kind of a hypertrophy phase.
Yeah,
almost.
So I was doing kind of sort of normal rep ranges on bench, but I was starting off with those other movements for 5 sets of 15.
Yep.
Which is obviously a lot, but it definitely helps. And then once I finished with that phase, I knocked benching back up to 3 times a week. And I still did those accessories, but after benching. So I would bench Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I would do the close grip after the Monday, the incline on the Wednesday, and then the dumbbells on the Friday. Didn't press on a Saturday, and then once I finished with that phase, I built up to kind of a mini peak after that phase, and I think I pressed 135 for a grotty single in ASV on the crap bench.
Yeah.
Deloaded from that, and then I went into a 4-week ultra specific, ultra high frequency, ultra high volume phase, which actually wasn't too bad in terms of difficulty. There was only, I think, 2 days which I didn't manage to get all the reps, and that was the hell Saturdays where I was doing 10 sets of 3, 12 hours after doing 5 sets of 5. Yeah. And that was the only 2 days I failed, but that worked very well. I think specificity is something always to be spoken about.
So it was almost, I guess, like kind of block periodization.
Yeah.
So you got like a hypertrophy block with all the variations to build up weak points, build up muscle.
Yeah.
Then when you went into your second block, it was to kind of learn to bench again.
Yeah.
So benching 3 times a week to, as you said earlier, it's really important to get that time under the bar, learn the motor patterns, because it's a skill as much as a strength.
Yeah.
To be pressing the most effective way you can, and then you've still got your variations to continually bringing up the weak points, and then the last block is a peak to prepare for the competition, which is obviously a 1 rep max on the bench.
I do that with all the lifts as well. I mean, for example, with I'll use Johnny for example right now because he's quite far from competition. He's hating me at the moment because he's doing like deficit beltless deadlifts and all that other sort of horrible variations that everyone hates, and then we'll eventually put the belt back on, eventually move back to floor, and then by that time, having done all those nasty variations, you should be much stronger. Yeah.
So if people were looking to start programming for themselves, do you think it's a good idea for them to just fire into that, or
I think
get someone else to do the brunt?
I think the best way to do it is choose a relatively simple program, and then just kind of add to it and take away from it as time goes on.
To specify it to yourself.
Yeah, that's the way I kind of learned to do it. I found one that I thought, first of all, I kind of read up on programming and what was the main principles that everyone kind of agreed on, and then I picked a program someone else had made that I thought was the best way to do that, and then from that I took accessories in and out. I played with the rep ranges, while always kind of keeping in mind the principles of programming, and that was what I did. For the majority of 2015, and then 2016 I started kind of changing slightly. I would kind of just started writing them from scratch for a certain competition.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I do now. I pick a competition or a date, and then I just kind of write a training cycle for that. I mean, I've spent yesterday in the library doing four training programs for 4 different people, including myself, for September, and that took bloody ages, and it was difficult as anything. But at
least you know exactly what you're doing.
Well, I hope so. It seems to have worked so far for most.
Well, to sum that up, for people, it could be a good idea to ask about for some cookie cutter programs that have been shown to work for people in the club, or just programs. Maybe something you can find online or from a well-respected source. Try it a few times. If it works, if it doesn't work, kind of work out the main things that have went wrong, change and specify to yourself and try again. And I guess it's important to say that it does take time. Like, you can't just try something for a week and say, oh no, I didn't like that. If you didn't feel like you liked it, make sure you were doing it properly, and probably a good idea to actually keep hammering it for a few weeks, because it could be a weak point. But vice versa, if you did like it and it went really well, but it might not be helping you too much, or, I mean, these are all things to consider.
I would recommend, if you're going to just give a general recommendation, it would be to probably start with something like 5-3-1, because it's so simple. And you can add a lot to it, and you can take away a lot from it. And for example, with 5-3-1, it's squat, bench, and deadlift, I think, all one time a week. If your bench isn't
overhead
going up,
press as well, maybe.
If your bench isn't going up, bench twice a week. So just repeat the day, but slowly build up to it. Same with squat, and then eventually you just find things that work. And every time you do a training cycle, you should take away what worked and what didn't work. For example, I'm not going to change anything about my bench training because it worked very well, but for the last training cycle, but for the squat and deadlift, I have to not push it so hard in the last few weeks because it was probably counterproductive. So you just got to kind of learn as you go on. That's
quite a good point you made about your bench there, that you're not going to change anything because it worked. If you do something in training and you get really good results in a comp, don't think, oh, I wonder what else I can try to do well. Just do it again until it doesn't work for you so well. I think I've been quite bad for that myself, which is why I wanted to emphasise it. You made progress and think, oh, I'll do this, this will work just as well, and then it's just like, it was like...
You've always got to bear in mind that the main driver of getting better is overall total volume as well. So your volume does need to be going up, and I don't mean that in like, if you do 3 sets of 8 this cycle, you need to do 4 sets of 8 next cycle. If you do 3 sets of 8 this cycle and do 3 sets of 8 at a heavier weight for the start of the next cycle, your volume has gone up, your total tonnage has gone up. So one thing to bear in mind is, if you're going from a program that's squatting 4 days a week, and then you decide you're going to go to a different program that's 1 day a week, you're probably not going to continue to progress, because how can you?
Without some sort of deload or like time off where your body has to readapt.
You can kind of reacclimatise to volume. If you don't do it for a while, then you can kind of reset your volume threshold, but it does take a wee while for that to happen.
So that 5-3-1 is by Jim Wendler. And I mean, there's loads of stuff about 5-3-1 online. I believe there's a book as well if you want to buy the book or source the book. So that covers it for programming on that small section. Last bit we have here is a bit of self-reflection. So some would say you're quite a secretive, maybe controversial character at the club that maybe found it training silently judging others. Some people say you're scary. Some people say...
I don't get the scary thing.
Some people say you're lovely and Coach Cuthill, I think as Molly Gray likes to call you.
Yeah, I think that was a Judike coined term, that one.
So I've got here a bit of training philosophy. We just talked about that. Where do you want to go with your lifting? I guess you said just kind of competitiveness, beating other people. I don't know if you want to share any long-term goals you have, because... no, that's not something you do, but...
No, I don't like to do that, because I think you're just setting yourself up to be laughed at.
I think it's also that...
There's plenty of people that say, oh, I'm going to do this XYZ at this comp, and then they don't, and then you look stupid. I'm
pretty sure there's some sort of psychology or philosophy principle where... Or some... I don't know what it's called.
Don't tell people
the more people you tell, the less likely you are to achieve it.
Well, it's like, if you tell someone, it's like you've already done it. So, I like to not be open about what I'm going to try and do, because I think it works better that way.
So I mean, I guess you kind of covered that you want to be up there in Scottish powerlifting.
Yeah, I mean,
there's people you have your eye on.
Yeah, there is. I think short-term goal will be to compete at either Scottish or British and do what I was hoping to do or should have done at Scottish unis in terms of total. The Scottish junior records are all, except for the bench, are all within sight, so that would be a short-term goal. Long term, I've got no idea how long I'll be able to continue to do this, because if I get a job as a solicitor, I'm probably not going to have much free time. I imagine I'll probably be working from like 8 till 7, and then I don't see myself wanting to go and train at 7 o'clock at night and then go immediately to bed, so who knows. I'll try. I would love to be able to keep up, but it's not something that I'm planning on being able to keep up.
I guess it's something you can always come back to in however many years or months or And then you've got Pete, who takes 3 months off and comes back to it. Maybe ask him what he does.
So yeah, I mean, but that wouldn't be until I think another 18 months or so. So I'm just looking for the next 18 months, and that's as long term as I'm looking, and I'll try and get as good as I can in that time. Yeah.
So last one, if you could go back a couple of years, classic question, and maybe something that you would tell your past self, like it's important that you don't like leave this out, or you focus on this, or is it? I mean, I don't want to say regrets, because I don't think people. You wouldn't be where you are today without things you've done, so I don't think there's anything people should really regret doing, maybe regret not doing.
I think 2 years ago everything was kind of alright lifting wise. 18 months ago everything was alright. I think it was just last year, I would say, just take the foot off the pedal a little bit with what I was doing for squats and deadlifts, because that's what led to me flaring up that kind of glute SI injury, which took me out of unis last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say, don't always train as hard as you can, because I'm guilty of that, and I'm trying these days to not kill myself with volume as much, and not make every set an RP 9, and just kind of focus on lifting more as a technical mastery rather than shifting weight. 'Cause I mean, I've discovered that, like, with the strength I am now, I can't tolerate as much volume as I used to anyway. Like, I can't do however many sets at 90% because it just fucking kills me. So, and I can't recover from it. I mean, especially I found in my hips at the moment it's really slow to recover. So I've to kind of, that was what was really stuffing me during the squat cycle leading up to Scottish Uni. So I've just to maybe try and hold myself back more and not think that I need to go 100% every time I step in the gym.
I guess one of your strengths is your competitiveness. Is at the end of the day one of your biggest weaknesses as well.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I suppose.
And I think that is important for, especially the people who think, "Oh, I'm going to be going uni in a year. I need to do as best I can now." If you do all the progress you can make, as much as you can in 3 months, get injured and you're out for another 3 months, you're not going to be in a better position than if you just made gradual gains in 6 months. But I thanks very much for that. You've pretty much covered everything I'd like to talk about today. Don't know how we've pushed the clock.
Not too bad.
About an hour or something. Is there anything you'd like to discuss or bring up? Call somebody out? We've had a theme of that lately at the end of the podcast.
I'll call out Pete Tomney for telling me he wasn't going to lift well at Scottish Unis and then actually lifting well, so you're an idiot. Who else am I going to call out? Connor Mackey for getting drugs tested. That'll be a very sad day when he's banned for 4 years. So.
Actually, on that point, me and Connor were in the Vitamin Shop. The Vitamin Shop sponsors the AUWC, so go check them out. Peter in there and his wife that run the shop are extremely helpful. We were in getting pre-workout yesterday, and we go in and we were looking at the pre-workouts. There's another boy in the shop. He was a customer, and I was like, "That's Connor. That's the pre-workout I had last time. Don't think it was that strong, but I just wanted to get like a kind of a relatively weaker one because I've not used it before." And the boy was like, "Oh, you need to get this psychotic one. It's 10 times as strong." And I'm like, looking at it, it's this big freak beast on the bottle. And Peter, the owner of the Vitamin Shop, comes through and he's like, No. He's like, "You guys are drug tested," and we're like, He's like, "You can't buy psychotic." It's just loaded with stuff. He's good though. He's like, "Oh, these ones are from America or whatever. You can't take these ones because these will have stuff in them, etc. You're better off with one of these." But at the end of the day, if you're doing this stuff, you can't guarantee that it's, unless you get it tested yourself, can't guarantee that it's not got banned substances.
Yeah.
But
I just don't take any pre-workout or anything like that because
obviously go for a Red Bull or something.
Yeah, I mean, especially after what happened, I won't mention names, with someone last year and the slating they got on Scottish powerlifting. Yeah. I would look mighty silly if I was to fail for something like that.
For those that don't know, a university student from another club was banned after being drug tested, as they tested positive for some sort of amphetamine related thing. Yeah. Which is not. I mean,
to be fair, I think it was probably entirely innocuous, and it was just.
Bad luck.
I don't think he's got any competitive advantage from whatever he took.
Yeah, but it's the rules.
Yeah,
and so that's why it's very important. It's just to make sure you know what you're putting inside your body.
Yeah.
But with that said, the Vitamin Shop are really good and they're helpful, and all the AUWC members do get a 10% discount they've supported us, so make sure you support them. I don't think there's anything else.
I would also like to call out Molly Gray for telling me she couldn't bench 67.5 and then doing it in comp.
With the pause.
Yeah, with the pause from hell. So yeah, that's my final one, I think.
Thanks again to the Aberdeen Student Radio. They've let us use this really nice recording studio. Actually, it's quite comfy up here in the Johnston Hall. Beats the production value or the production level we're used to. I think this will be going up on their Mixcloud. Marcus is nodding. So if you happen to listen to this just out of interest and you're not a member of the club, you can message us on Facebook, you can come down to training, speak to someone, try it out, get involved. We're really friendly and we just like to see people get better and join in. And I think that's all. We'll see you next episode, guys. Thanks very much.